So we're going to take our brick, which is the slightly deeper one. The block, if you remember, is a little bit wider and not quite so deep. And we're going to place this brick underneath the flats of the shoulder blades. So when you first lie back on the floor, it will feel really odd, and it will take a moment to adjust just to get it in the perfect position. So we kind of want to feel that firmness on the flats of the shoulder blades. We don't want to feel it into the rib cage. And you'll notice that there's still a lift comes from the middle back all the way down to the back of the hips. The reason why I suggest a second brick or a pillow or a block is that when you take your head back, it might be too extreme for you to take your head all the way to the floor, particularly anyone who has any issues with their neck. So you might want to just prop your head a little higher, and we'll take a moment to just get into that position. So if you pop that brick onto your mat, launch yourself back, and try not to shuffle over the brick. It will make it uncomfortable. Physically pick yourself up and adjust the brick so that it's directly under the flats of the shoulder blades. And spot if you need that extra support under the back of the head. As I say, for some people, it's quite extreme on the neck. Now, my suggestion would be that we keep the knees bent, particularly if you have tightness in the lower back, or if you sometimes struggle a little bit with the lower back getting a bit tired towards the end of the day. Wonderful. Ideally, we want to extend the arms wide, taking the arms out into a T-shaped position. Block. Turning the palms up towards the ceiling. And although this doesn't feel like a relaxing position, we're going to start our beginning of the session in this posture, allowing the weight of the shoulders to release to the floor, the weight of the arms to soften and release. And I don't know about you, but to begin with, I always feel that this feels very resistant at the space between the shoulder blades when we begin. So if this feels really strange to you, it probably means that we're doing it right. Don't forget in this position to unclench the jaw, to relax the tongue in the well of the mouth, and almost get a sense that every out breath draws you a little more deeply towards the floor. Every in breath, creating a sense of weightlessness through the upper body. So we feel lighter, expand and widen into the space that surrounds us. And with every out breath, we just feel ourselves easing a little more into this posture. So we're using these props today to create a yin posture. So if you're familiar with the term yin and yang, yang is the active principle and yin is the more relaxed, cooling principle. Last night we stepped into a new moon in Taurus. And Taurus does have the tendency to make us feel a little heavy, overburdened, as if all the weight is on our shoulders. So we're using this release through the chest to soften that space through the shoulders, to counter that natural curve that occurs. All those years of stooping forward, hunching over a desk. This almost feels like the opposite of your natural posture. Now, for those of you who've not elected to have something under your head, do check in if you're having any tension in the neck. It may be that you need to just create a little bit of relief there. You because over time, the weight of the head can create a little bit of tension through the top of the shoulders into the neck. And we principally want to feel this opening, this widening through the chest, this softening and releasing through the weight of the arms and the shoulders. Bring your awareness to the breath. And we'll practice that deep yogic breath. So we often say that the yoga breath is the thing that's the most confusing when we get used to the postures. It's getting the breath in the right rhythm. What I would say is just think of the yoga breath as being a little slower. You don't have to overthink it. It's just like your normal breath, but it just takes us a little bit longer. So when we do a lot of exercise, we tend to breathe to the top third of the lungs. In yoga, we want to make sure that we're using the full expanse of the lungs. So visualize sending the breath all the way down to the base of the lungs, fully inflating, widening and expanding here. Then as you exhale, softening and releasing here. Over time, you might become more confident to feel the breath in the belly. Noticing the belly rise on the inhale, then soften and release on the exhale. If you wish, bring your hands to rest on the belly. Feel that sensation. Inhaling to the belly, the chest and the collarbones. Exhaling from the collarbones, the chest and the belly last. This deep belly breathing. Releasing the body from tension. And slowing the breath down. Now, to do this posture justice, I've left you in this position for a little longer than may have felt comfortable. There's method in my madness, you'll feel it. So we don't want to rush, we're going to take our time. And I'm going to suggest that the most comfortable way to remove that brick from underneath the shoulders is simply to roll to one side. If you have low blood pressure, choose the left. And I'm just going to use the elbow to prop myself up on the forearm. Then slide that brick out from underneath your shoulders. If you had a block, slide that out as well. And then take a moment to just bring the upper body back to the floor. Now notice when you come back into this fully supine position that you feel a little wider, that there's almost like a flat space where there normally would be a curve between the shoulders. So just take a few moments to become accustomed to that, to familiarise yourself with that sensation. Take a moment to roll the head over the shoulder. So turning to look over the right shoulder, following the nose rather than the chin to come through centre, looking over the left shoulder, then slowly returning to centre. And we'll gently nod the chin to the chest just in case there's any tension there in the back of the neck. Replace the back of the head to the floor. Bring the arms up overhead. Rest the backs of the hands on the floor. So oftentimes tension in the shoulder, tightness in the chest will make sure that we kind of want to bend the elbows so that we're not too extended in the upper arms, so that we're not forcing that release through the chest. So we now feel that deepening a little higher into the space under the armpit, the side of the rib cage. Draw the fingers in towards the palms and make fists here. Inhale to open the fingers, stretch the fingers wide. Then draw the fingers back again in towards the palms and make those fists. Now lengthen the arms overhead, pointing through fingers, resting the thumbs an inch from the floor, and extend both legs forward. Notice if your heels naturally roll out or in, just allow the thighs to relax. Inhale to point through fingers and toes. Exhale now to hug the right knee to the chest, placing the hand to the shin and applying a little pressure here to widen the space in the middle back, to push that space at the back of the hips to the floor. Then inhale again to lengthen. On the exhale, hug the left knee in. Again, using that little bit of pressure just to deepen the release across the hips. Then come again to a fully lengthened arms overhead, pointing through fingers, pointing through toes. Exhaling now to draw both knees in towards the chest, hands again to the shins, and gently rocking from one hip to the other. So as you do this rock from side to side, come all the way over onto the shoulder and the hip, equally weighted, so that we're not just disconnecting from the hip space, we're rolling through the whole of the wide muscles of the back. Roll yourself back to center and replace the feet on the floor. Now take your brick again, and we're going to use the brick again in that lowest profile, what we did before underneath the shoulders. We're going to lift the bottom from the floor, and we'll just slide that brick underneath the lower back. So we're positioning the brick just underneath the flat bone above the bottom. So you feel as though the fleshy part of the bottom is hanging off the end of the brick, and we've not got the brick so high that it's digging into the spine. Now again, bring the hands either side of the hips, palms turned up to the ceiling, and we'll gently start to open into that hip flexor space. Extend the right leg forward, rest the heel on the floor, and again, if naturally the toe wants to roll out, just let it do what it feels it needs to do. So fully extend the leg, relax the weight of the leg, and you'll feel that we're gently starting to open into the right hip flexor, into the thigh. Inhale again to lift the arms overhead, rest the backs of the hands on the floor, and again honour any tightness in the shoulders by bending the elbows. And just bringing a little relief here. We'll keep the arms overhead as we bend that right knee up, replace the foot to the floor, and extend the left leg forward. So again, make sure the heel is connected to the floor, connected to the mat, and roll the toe out if that feels comfortable. So we're releasing to the front of the hip, in and around the hip socket. Every out breath becoming a little heavier through the hips. Then bringing that knee back. Perfect. So now we want to push down into the soles of the feet, and we want to turn that brick up one profile. So rather than having it on the flattest surface, we're going to turn it up so that the thinnest surface now is underneath the bony parts of the bottom. Now, if this starts to give you any discomfort on the lower back, you may be better just staying on that lowest profile and repeating that sequence. So again, we're a little bit higher, so we want to take things slowly. We'll take the right leg forward, and you'll just feel that that's a little bit more extreme. Releasing through the front of the hips, perhaps getting a little bit of feedback here, either from the space above the bottom at the sacrum or into the lower back. Bending the right knee up, extending the left leg forward. And you kind of feel as though you're holding yourself up. So try to give yourself the intention of relaxing the buttocks, softening the thighs. So we're really submitting the full weight of the lower body onto that brick. Now, rather than folding that left leg back up, let's extend the right leg forward. If this feels a little too extreme for you, if this is giving you discomfort in the lower back, then by all means, bring the knees back in and adjust back down to that lower brick profile and make the same shape of extending the legs forward. And again, it kind of feels as though we're curving the opposite way to the way that we would normally hold the body. Remember to unclench the buttocks, to relax the thighs. Then when you're ready, bend the knees back up. Become very aware of that connection through the soles of the feet, keeping the knees in line with the hips, insides of the feet parallel. Then push down into the soles of the feet and we'll slide that brick out from underneath the bottom. Reposition the hands either side of the hips. Inhale to press the shins forward, lifting the thighs a little higher. So once more, we're exaggerating that release through the hip flexors, deepening the stretch through the front of the thighs. This time we do want to engage the buttocks. So on an out breath, squeeze the buttocks together, draw the tummy button in. On an in breath, let that go. Exhale to squeeze the buttocks up. Inhale to let that go. Exhale again, squeeze the buttocks up. Inhale to relax, keeping the hips high. Simply peel the right heel from the mat, pushing into the ball of the right foot. Squeezing the buttocks again. Then as you release the buttocks, press the right heel to the floor. Squeeze the buttocks once more, lift the left heel from the mat. Press the shins forward. Keep the breath steady. Then release that heel to the floor. On the next out breath, lift both heels, squeeze the buttocks, press the thighs towards the ceiling. Then release, bringing the heels to the floor. Inhaling again to press the shins forward, lengthening through the thighs. This time the exhale to start a gentle roll through the spine. Now I'll give you a word of warning, because we've used that brick to elevate the hips, it will feel as though this release back to the floor takes forever. So go with it. Enjoy that sensation as each vertebra releases. And notice that that space that we normally hold really tight at the back of the hips fully releases, widens, softens to the floor. On the next out breath, draw both knees in towards the chest. Again, we'll do that little rock and roll from one side to the other. It might feel a little strange because remember we've had those hips lifted for quite some time. Make sure that your brick and block are not in your way. As we take the arms wide, turn the palms up towards the ceiling. On an out breath, roll the knees to the right side, turning your gaze along the length of the left arm. So there might be a little resistance here. Take your time. Rather than allowing that left shoulder to pop up, use the weight of the head to keep that shoulder released to the floor as you allow gravity to gently draw the thighs to the opposite side. Breathe into that space, opening out the left of the hip into the left of the rib cage. Visualize breathing fingertip to fingertip, expanding and widening through the collarbones. Exhaling now to draw the tummy button in, rolling the knees through center. Then we'll take the knees all the way to the opposite side. Turn the gaze along the length of the right arm. And again, this is all about submission. Comfortably feeling the weight of the upper body sink into the floor through the shoulder blades. Permitting that gentle twist in the middle back, that release through the side of the hips. Then as you exhale, draw the tummy button in and roll the knees back to centre. Lovely. So now I'd like you to position the hands underneath the bottom. So if we shuffle the hands under the flat bone again at the back of the bottom, come a little bit lower onto the squidgy part of the bottom so we don't cut off the blood supply. By having this extra lift, you'll feel that it's much more natural now to push the lower back to the mat and to engage the core. Press through the heels and straighten the legs. So I say straighten the legs as if that's easy. Most of us will have quite a bend in the knees. What we'd like to do is keep the core engaged, then lower the heels about a third of the way. Now we're lowering the heels in order to work the core a little harder, but also to give us a little bit more space in the back of the leg so that we're less distracted by that tension there. If you feel that your back is lifting too much, then try bending one knee in towards the chest, and that will just stabilise that space in the lower back. Inhale to point the toes. Exhale to flex. Inhale to point. Exhale, pull back to flexion, pushing through the heels. Then we'll bend the left knee, lower the right heel down, and just rest that heel an inch from the floor. Hands are still stuck under the bottom, so you feel a little bit as if you're pinned down. Inhale to point the right toe. Exhale to flex. Inhale to point. Come back to flexion. Engage the core, bring that knee back to centre, then extend the left leg forward. So if we keep the right knee bent, it supports the lower back. And again, we can focus on that pointing and flexing through the left ankle. Coming back to flexion, bending that knee back to centre. Then once more, hugging the knees to the chest. So releasing the hands from the under the bottom and gently rocking one side to the other. Beautiful. So in medieval times, you may have been punished by being stretched on a rack. This is my own personal form of stretching you. Extend the legs again, take another long stretch through the body. Then exhale, hug the knees in. And because I've been quite gentle, quite relaxed for this opening sequence, let's bring the hands behind the thighs, a little more energy now. Engage the core to roll up into a seated position, then roll back again. So we're kind of rocking and backwards and forwards across the spine, just waking up and energizing, ready for the practice. Beautiful. Let's come to that fully seated position. And again, I'm just going to mention about the props. If you have a block, so that's the slightly wider version, not quite as deep, you might find that in a seated position, this gives you a little more release in the hips. It effectively lifts the hips as high as the knees. And when you come into your cross-leg position, it allows gravity to draw the knees a little deeper away. If you don't have a block, you can use a folded up blanket. You can use a cushion. Sometimes cushions move around under the bottom. So let's position both hands either side of the hips. Align the back of the head with the tailbone. Push the right hand away and bring the gaze up to look to the middle finger of the left hand. Now we want to sink the palm of the right hand to the floor. Extend the fingers of the left hand further away. Then on an out breath, bring that right elbow in towards the waist and keep looking up towards the left hand as you open into the side of the waist and the rib cage. It sometimes helps to turn your gaze up just to encourage that opening through the side of the rib cage rather than collapsing the shoulder forward. Inhale to lift, come back to center. Extend the left arm away, look up to the right hand. Bring that left elbow in, come over the midline of the body. Try to keep equally weighted through the sit bones. If you sense that you're drawing all your weight over to the left side, then push that right sit bone back to the floor. Inhale to lift, come back to center. Place that right hand behind the hip, bring the left hand to the right knee. This is not an invitation to pull the knee towards you, so if anything, a little pressure under the palm, lifting up out of the sit bones, using the rib cage to turn your gaze towards the back of the room. Let's make sure we feel relaxed in the inner thighs, the knees are heavy. Then push down again into the palms of the hands, engage the core. Inhale to lift both arms overhead. Press through the fingertips and relax the shoulders down away from the ears. Turn the gaze up towards the ceiling. On an out breath, engage the core. Bring the underside of the chin parallel to the mat. Then opposite hand to opposite knee. Left hand behind the hip. A moment to re-lengthen, inhaling to lift out of the sit bones, exhaling to come into the twist on this side. So remember, a twist isn't looking over the shoulder, it's isolating the left rib cage and turning your gaze towards the back of the room. As you exhale, release and bring your gaze forward. Perfect. So I'm going to cover another posture that I do quite a lot in this sequence. I'm going to sit side on for a change, just to show you what can sometimes happen in this posture. So we're still in cross legs, and we all make very different shapes in our cross legs. Some of us, the knees are a lot higher. Therefore, we feel there's a little bit of limitation in that forward fold. So if needs be, take the feet a little further away, just to give you that little more release. So come into a position that suits you, is comfortable for you. Lift and lengthen out the sit bones. Place the palms on the floor. And we invite that sense of walking forward and easing the belly to be in that space between the inner thighs. But what I'm covering here is that there's no real prize for getting the head down and curving the spine. We don't want that shape. The shape we want is a nice diagonal line from the back of the head to the tailbone. So we might not be able to get very far forward. Draw the shoulder blades together. Lead with the sternum as you come a little more deeply into this space. Now I'm quite mobile in the hips, so this feels comfortable for me. But I've got to say, that's not the norm. Most people don't find this posture comfortable. So if you're grimacing and going, hurry up and get on with it, you're not alone. Place the palms into the mat, lift the sternum and walk the hands back towards the ankles. Perfect. Now switch the leg crossover, so we'll have the opposite foot in front and behind. And the counter to that forward fold posture is to open out through the front of the body. Sometimes that will feel uncomfortable on the ankles. So we've got two options here. We'll bring the hands behind the hips, shoulder blades drawn together, core engaged. We'll lift the sternum up towards the ceiling. So the first action is to effectively come back into that space that we created when we had the brick under the shoulder blades. So we're opening the upper thoracic spine. If we have the mobility in the knees and in the ankles, we might be able to press the shins forward, lift the bottom from the mat, and deepen that extension through the front of the thighs. There's absolutely no need to go all the way. You work within your own possibilities within your body. Then replace the sit bones to the floor. Lovely. Now lift up again out of the sit bones. I'll turn again to face you, and we're going to widen the legs. So whenever we come to this wide leg position, I will always remind you that it's better to keep a little gap behind the knees. The intention is to find a deeper stretch in the inner thighs. So keeping the toes turned up towards the ceiling activates those muscles. If you soften the feet, you'll notice that the muscles just go a little bit soft. So when you switch them on, they're going ping, I'm awake and I'm ready to work. So I need that behind the knees because I know that my hamstrings are so tight it will pull when I get so far. So bring the hands again in front of the chest. Then as you exhale, start that little walk forward. Again, we want to be very mindful of the shape that the spine makes. So there's no rush to get the head down, get the shoulders down. It's more about keeping that diagonal line. And if you feel that you've got a little further to go, perhaps start to press the backs of the legs to the floor and create a little deeper hinge in and around the hip socket. It may be that you can extend by bringing the hands to the shins. You might be able to fit them onto the ankles. You might be able to bring the hands to the soles of the feet. But if you can't reach, it doesn't matter. Exhaling to hinge a little more deeply into this space. Shoulder blades drawn together, core engaged. Then bring the hands back under the chest. Keep that core engagement. We're in quite a exposed position for the lower back here. So as we push into the hands, the core is engaged and we lift back to center. Lovely. Now bring the soles of the feet together. So that I'm not showing you the soles of my feet, I'll come side on again. Lift up out of the sit bones, shoulder blades drawn together. And we're going to bring the right knee up. So as soon as we bring one knee up, it kind of imbalances us. And again, we can get into that bad habit of curving the spine. So I like to use an interlock on the shin to lift myself out the sit bones and draw that straight line again from the back of the head to the tailbone. So left toe again, pointing up towards the ceiling. I'm going to bring the right foot up and over that left thigh. So we're starting a gentle opening through the side of the IT band into the hips. Bring the, what have I said I've done now? Left elbow to the right knee. I couldn't remember what side I was on. So the opposite elbow comes across and hooks around the outside of the knee, palm up. So if you're facing away from me, just trust my voice. You don't need to look at the screen. Lift up out of the sit bones. And this time you're turning your gaze over the shoulder, looking down towards that hand on the floor. Lifting up out of the sit bones, exhaling to come a little more deeply into this twist. And again, it's that isolation in the rib cage. So it's not about turning the head. Then release, bring the gaze forward. Extend the right leg, bring the left leg in. So same shape again. Use the interlock to lift and lengthen. Bring the left leg across the right. As an alternative to bringing the elbow to the knee, you can simply keep the hand on the outside of the calf, reposition the left hand behind the hip, come into the twist in this way. If you've space, bring the elbow over. And we use the elbow to the outside of the knee, principally for a little bit of push and pull. So as the knee pushes out, the elbow pushes in and it deepens the intensity to create that stretch at the side of the IT band into the hip. And all the way, almost as if you're an owl. Then when you're ready, release, bring your gaze forward. Place both hands either side of the hips, palms facing out will be comfortable. Lifting again up onto the sit bones, lining up the back of the head with the tailbone, then extending both arms forward. Press through the fingertips, core engaged. Inhale to lift the arms up overhead. So as soon as we lift the arms, the shoulders follow. So remind yourself on the next exhale to soften the shoulders away from the ears, Draw the shoulder blades together, widen through the chest, widen through the collarbones, engage the core. Keep that core engagement as you now widen the arms. Thumbs pointing up towards the ceiling, fingers in towards the palms, ego eradicator pose. So making a thumbs up like the fawns, shoulder blades drawn together, perfect. And I'll guide you to bring your awareness back to the breath here. So this posture is intended to build heat and specifically to build what we call our inner Agni. Our inner Agni is digestive fire. So if you haven't yet eaten, this will be making you very hungry and ready for lunch. If you have eaten, it'll be speeding up the digestion process. Feel those thighs, a little bit of wibble wobble. Every in-breath cooling the thighs down, every out-breath releasing any tension. Take a deep breath in. Then as you exhale, engage the core, lift the arms overhead, bring the palms together into a nice confident Anjali Mudra, press through the fingertips, position the ears between the upper arms. Then on an out breath, separate the hands, position the hands either side of the hips, draw the feet in, push down into the soles of the feet, lift the bottom. And again, just check in with the position of the wrists. Gloria, bring your wrists to the floor. I noticed the other day that you've got a habit of lifting up on your hands. Perfect. So we're going to repeat what we did when we were in the bridge lift earlier. We're going to squeeze the buttocks, lifting the right heel, then pressing that heel to the floor. Squeeze the buttocks, lift the left heel. So all we're doing is onto the ball of the foot. Press that heel to the floor. Now lift both heels, press the shins forward, lift the thighs a little higher. Then on an out breath, bring the sit bones to the floor. Lovely. Wide through the chest, engaged in the core, strong in the legs. So I'm going to move you now all the way onto your belly. So if you come now to lie on the mat, perfect. And we're going to bring the chest and the forehead to the floor. Start by positioning the elbows either side of the chest, the palms either side of the head, and for a moment we'll just rest the head to the floor and we'll work through the length of the body, unclenching any tension, relaxing the buttocks, relaxing the thighs. Take a deep breath in, feeling the belly rise. On the out breath, engage the core. On the next inhalation, push into the forearms. Inhale to lift the chest, opening the sternum forward. Stay nice and quiet in the lower back. Then on the out breath, turn and look over one shoulder. Inhale to look ahead. Exhale over the opposite shoulder. Inhale again to look ahead. On the out breath, lower down. Let's keep that left forearm attached to the floor as we bring the right heel in. If we can reach, take hold of the right ankle. You might be better holding on to the hem of your leggings, or if you have a strap, wrap a strap around the front of the ankle and you can use that strap to draw the foot a little closer to the bottom. Visualize pressing the thighs to the mat, pushing into that left forearm, inhaling to lift the chest. So we deepen the stretch through the thigh, through the hip flexor. If it's comfortable for you to lift the head, then do so. Just keep that neck in a neutral position. On an out breath, release that down. Bring the right arm forward. Let's have the left heel in. Bring the hand either to the ankle, to the hem, use the strap. Push into the thigh, inhale to lift the chest. Keep toggling that heel a little closer to the bottom. So you can just fine tune the length of the stretch to the front of the thigh. On an out breath, release, placing the foot to the floor. Bring your head fully to the floor again, and now extend both arms forward. So take the arms overhead, bring the forehead to the floor. Again, tune into the rhythm of your breath. If it feels more comfortable for you to keep the arms wide, then do that to allow the space in the shoulders. Then on the next inhale, lift both arms from the floor. Try to lift them 2-3 inches from the mat. Make sure it's the full length of the arms. Then on an out breath, lower the arms. Relax the back of the head again, bringing the forehead to the floor. Take a deep breath in. On the exhale, engage the core. Then on the next inhale, lift both legs. So we don't need to adjust by tilting the pelvis to the floor. Be mindful of that widening through the belly. Then on an out breath, release both feet to the floor. You'll find that the buttocks, the lower back have worked to help you here. So give them a moment to unclench, to soften and release. Then on the next inhale, lift the right arm, lift the left leg. So although we're lifting opposite limbs, we should still feel that we're equally weighted through the shoulders, through the hips, rather than rolling to one side. Lower that hand and leg to the floor. Then come to the opposite side. So lifting left arm, right leg, back of the neck in neutral, core engaged, keeping the breath steady. It's very tempting to hold the breath in this posture. Then release the hand and the leg to the floor. Once more, let everything hang loose, so soften the bottom, soften the thighs. Then on the next inhale, lift both arms, both legs. If you're fed up with sniffing your mat, lift the head, lift the chest. We'll come into what I call the skydiver pose. Then on an out breath, release, relax that to the floor. At the back of your neck, relax. Through the buttocks. Then on the next inhale, lift both arms, both legs, keeping the hips, the shoulders equally weighted. Again, maintaining that steady breath. Exhaling to release and engage the core. Reposition the hands either side of the chest. My preference is to draw the elbows in so that you almost feel like you're hugging the rib cage. Push into the palms of the hands and let's lengthen all the way back, coming into a long child's pose here. Now I'll mention at this point that we all make a very different shape in child's pose. We're all built very differently. So although my shape is quite released back, I quite like that sense of widening the space in the lower back. It may be that you're a little more comfortable higher up. It may be that you need to take the knees a little wider. So make any modifications you need to get the nice comfort of this posture. Inhale to lift the fingertips, press the wrists to the mat. Then lower the palms to the floor, engage the core. Inhale to lift the chest forward, sinking the thighs to the mat and opening the chest forward. Exhale to push back again. Again, it doesn't have to be all the way back into child's pose. Make the shape that's comfortable for you. Then inhale again to lift forward. Work with the rhythm of your breath, creating a little bit of fluidity here for the lower back. So inhaling to open into cobra, exhaling to push back into child's pose. Inhaling forward, exhaling back. Inhaling forward, exhaling back. Rest again in your child's pose. allowing the weight of your shoulders to sink a little more deeply to the floor. Then push into the palms and lift yourself up into an all fours position. So if you need any modification to cushion the knees, you can either place a folded blanket or a towel under the knees. One of the little tricks that works quite well is to put a fold in your mat, and that just adds a little extra cushioning should you need it. So let's find a neutral spine, a nice length to the back of the neck. Elbows are soft, fingers are spread. Turn the toes under. As you exhale, draw the tummy button in, roll up through the spine, nodding the head towards the chest, tucking the tailbone under, then coming back to that neutral spine position. So we'll repeat that cat stretch, but I want to remind you it's very easy and very tempting to pull the shoulders first, because that's an area where we hold slack a lot of the time. So try to keep the shoulders quiet and visualize lifting the space in the lower back first. So really picture lifting the tummy button in, drawing the lower back up, tucking the tailbone under. Then you can let the shoulders come into the action, nodding the chin to the chest. It will feel different. There'll be more relief in the lower back. Come back again to that neutral spine, and we'll reverse the curve. So again, we're not just rushing to sink the hips to the floor. Think about drawing the sternum forward, opening through the chest, releasing the lower back into the cow pose. So exhaling, rolling up into the cat stretch, lower back lifted, lengthening by tucking the chin under. Then inhaling, turning that curve the opposite way. Come back again to that neutral spine position. Take the right foot back, turn the toe under and push through the heel. So we're releasing into the calf, into the ankle. Bring that knee back in. Take the opposite foot back, turn the toe under, push through the heel. Bring that knee back in. Make sure that we're still knees under hips, that we haven't drawn the knees too close together. We're going to do a little bit of balance on one knee, then the other. So this might not suit for everyone. So we're going to take the right foot back, but we're bringing the heel up, creating a straight line under the thigh. And I want to do that same thigh stretch that I did lying on our fronts. But if we use the same arm, we'll topple over. So the opposite arm has to come behind. And if you're tempted to look at the screen, I would urge you for this one to make sure that you're looking straight down, because if you twist in the spine in this position, it will feel really uncomfortable. So the intention is to draw the heel closer towards the bottom. Keep lifting the knee so that we deepen the stretch to the front of the thigh. Then replace that knee to the floor. Come to the opposite side, and the same rules apply as did before. You can grab the hem of the legging, you can use a strap. Remember, just take the time to get in and out of postures. We don't have to do them at full pace. Thigh parallel to the floor, chest nice and wide. Then on and out breath, release that knee back to the mat. Turn the toes under again. Exhale, draw the tummy button in. Come back to that cat stretch, leading from the lower back. Nodding the chin to the chest. We'll come back to neutral spine rather than the cow pose. And again, we'll extend the arms forward, pushing back one more time into the child's pose. Positioning the ears between the upper arms. Every out breath, lengthening, deepening, softening the lower back. Then when you're ready, slide the hands under the chest, We'll do one last posture, again with props, just to show you the variations on a theme. So I'm going to show you hero pose, sometimes called Japanese style pose. So for some people this is comfortable, for most people there's a little bit of limitation somewhere. Oftentimes I find that the tension is here at the top of the ankles. So the quick fix for that is to take a towel or a blanket, roll it up and pop it underneath the ankles. That's particularly relevant if you don't have much mobility in the ankles. Another very common discomfort area is the knees just won't allow for the bottom to go all the way back, or sometimes we have the weight so far forward that it kind of feels really unnatural. If you use again a block, you can pop that on the heels, bring the sit bones back onto the block, and it just gives you that tiny little bit more lift, that little bit more release in the knees. Now I've used a block because for me that's enough lift. It might be that you use a bolster, a pillow. You might have to be this high up. So use whatever is right for you to modify for what's going on in the knees or the ankles. Perfect. And just take your time to get into it. Squeeze the shoulders up towards the ears. Then as you exhale, relax and let the shoulders go. Squeeze the shoulders up. Then roll the shoulders back and down. As you draw the shoulder blades together, bring the arms together at the lower back. Bring the hands into an interlock position. So sometimes this can create overarching. So tuck the tailbone under, keep the core engaged, lift the hands away from the lower back, and we're looking for a really deep stretch here to the side of the chest. Now push down into the shins, lift your bottom off of whatever support you've chosen. Rather than pressing the hips forward, be mindful of opening the thighs, anchoring into the shins, lifting the sternum, feeling the weight of the hands pull you back as you open the chest towards the ceiling. Beautiful. Then as you exhale, engage the core, come back to center, separate the hands, simply ease forward, turn the toes under, let your block fall off, roll up through the spine, then relax back again into that neutral all fours position. Lovely. So you've done really well, but now it's time for your relaxation, which I know is what some of you come for. So if you would like to take a few moments to just bring yourself into a comfortable position where you will feel best supported. Remember, there's no rules. You don't have to lie down. You don't have to sit cross-legged. The optimum position for relaxation is what we call Shavasana pose or corpse pose. And it's your choice whether your preference is to extend the legs or whether to bend the knees and allow for a little release across the lower back. And what you might notice as we settle the weight of the bones into the floor is that because of the areas we've targeted today to release, to open, to widen, you might get a sense of feeling that connection more through the spine, of being very aware of that lift in the lower back. We spent a lot of time at the beginning of the session opening through the chest, releasing through the shoulders. So let's not undo all that hard work. The shoulders relaxed away from the ears. Let your arms become heavy. Try turning the palms up towards the ceiling, unless there's any limitation in the wrists that would make that uncomfortable for you. Soften the fingers and allow the full weight of your body to ease a little more deeply into the earth beneath you. Let your legs become heavy. And as you unclench the bottom, let the weight of your hips soften and release. Feel the weight at the back of your thighs. And enjoy that sense of the full weight of your body, easing a little more deeply into the earth beneath you. Return your awareness to the breath and simply slow the breath down here. Observe the rise and fall of the ribcage. Acknowledge that we often hold tension in the abdomen. So give yourself permission to unclench here. Soften the jaw. Release the temples. Check in with any of those areas in the body where you know stress manifests for you. Visualize each deeper out-breath as a letting go, a release. Each deeper out-breath relieves your body of tension, cleanses your body of negative energy. Each lengthened in-breath fills your body with prana. Recognize that you can channel and direct that prana, that positive energy, to any part of the body that may be asking for a little extra attention, a little extra healing at this time. Remember to come to the end of each full breath transaction. We're in no rush here. Feel that sensation of filling the lungs completely, emptying the lungs fully. You might notice that little pause, that little beat between the breaths, that moment of quiet, of stillness. Lean into that moment of quiet. And simply observe the breath. Easing in and out of the body. No effort. As you feel the body ease towards a deeper sense of relaxation, invite the mind to quiet. Turn down the volume on that chatter in your mind. Tune your full awareness into the breath. Fully dropping into your body here. Feeling every sensation. Simply rest here and breathe here. Now start to make your breath a little noisier here. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. If it feels natural to you, release this next breath with an audible sigh. Now bring your body, your breath, back to a natural, easy rhythm. And start to become aware again of your space within this room. Notice the cool air in the room against your face, your hands, and your feet. And begin to return sensation here. Wiggling fingers and toes. Wriggle the jaw and the nose. If you're laid in a supine position, you may wish to take a long stretch through the body. You may prefer to hug the knees to the chest and just honour again that space in the lower back. Take your time to roll to the side that feels most welcoming to you, pausing there for a moment to blink the eyes open. Then when you're ready, return to a comfortable seated position. Bring your hands to an Anjali Mudra. Touch to the head for kind thoughts, to the lips for kind words, and to the heart for kind intentions. The light in me honours the light in you. Namaste.